Hello, you're listening to Otaku Spirit Animecast. My name is Andrew, and I'm joined here, as always, with the wonderful Chris.
I'm wonderful today. Right
Yes,
on.
the always wonderful. Keep it straight.
No, I'm always awesome.
Always awesome?
I'm always
You don't want
awesome.
wonderful.
No,
Wonderful's not a cool. It's that
I
W
don't
at the
have a
beginning is a
pro-
little weird.
I don't have a problem
It's
with that.
elongated. It's got like 4 syllables to it. And like it's not 4, but you know.
I don't have a problem with wonderful. I'm always awesome. I'm just impressed that today I'm wonderful.
Okay. But today is our spring 2023 anime season reviews. Are you ready for it? Are
No.
you prepared?
No.
Because we got some bangers in this episode. We don't have Oshinoko, so if you're waiting for Oshinoko, which everybody's probably just waiting for Oshinoko, you gotta wait until next time, because we still got one more episode. And plus, we pretty much reviewed it last episode.
We've
like
reviewed it twice now.
Yeah, our spoiler cast one, and then for some reason, a discussional, we decided to review it. And I go, okay, we're doing this, Chris, right now. But yeah, it's good stuff. I'm ready to jump into them. We have 3 parts, probably. It just depends on how fast we go through this stuff. I might adjust it around, but I think right now we're aiming at 3. That way we don't, have 5-hour-long podcast episodes for 2 parts. You just kind of sprinkle it out. But yeah, are you excited? Because our first one's a banger.
Sure, let's give it a shot.
Our first one is an absolute banger. Before that, yes, otakuspirit.com. That's where you can go for all of our links, social media links, all that stuff. Discord, great community of people there. Also, ways to support us, Patreon, tips, links, all that kind of stuff. If you're on YouTube right now, you can support us through super thanks and through becoming a member of the channel. Greatly appreciate everybody does. Love the support. Got like 2, maybe 3. No, I think we got 4 new patrons this month. So that's really, really cool. Really appreciate the support. You guys are awesome. But yes, without further ado, let's jump into our first one. Yuri Is My Job. I said a banger. I said we're gonna start with a banger. Watashi no.
I'm more impressed and am very curious as to how this turned out to be a banger. So please, by all means, help me out here.
Okay, I'm sorry. / sarcasm. Watashi no Yuri wa oshikoto desu. This one's streamed on Crunchyroll, run for 12 episodes. Done by Passione and Studio Lings, based on a manga comedy romance. Apparently, I guess there was some comedy in there. I don't know. Anyways, yeah, this one follows a girl named Hime. Find out really quickly that she is one of those types that likes to put on a facade for everybody. She puts on this act of being the cutest, most adorable girl that everybody likes. She wants everybody to love her. And, we see the other side of her, which is that she's just put on this act because she desires to get with that one guy that's going to be super successful and super rich, like the son of a major corporation or something, or oil company. She just wants to just live the rest of her life with a sugar daddy, basically. At some point, she ends up bumping into a girl named Mai Koshiba, who, after she bumped into her, she knows that everybody's kind of watching, and so she puts on her facade that she's going to be cutesy and everything like that. And it seems like the girl that she bumped into seen that, and so she seemingly acted as if she hurt herself to kind of force Hime to have to join her cafe, because this Mai Koshiba runs a cafe, and it's a themed cafe after a pretty much like a Yuri. It's not Yuri. An all-girls school, an all-girls academy cafe. So all the girls that are waitresses there, they dress up in their actual school uniforms, and they serve people. And I guess in that fact that Hime was putting on such a great act, it was a perfect job for her. So she faked that she was hurt in order to get her to take on her roles. So yeah, it's got Hime. She's joined the cafe forcefully, pretty much, and she ends up running into this Ayano Koji, who she kind of gets interested in very quickly. But it seems like this girl really hates her. There's another girl there that when she's not working, she's kind of a gyaru, but when she's actually working, she's like a bookworm, very prim and proper type. And eventually, over time, Hime doesn't really rope in. Her friend Konako ends up joining the cafe too. So. And it gets into like different aspects of like how everything's sort of based on lore around a lot of romance and shoujo novels, and how they kind of incorporate that into it. At some point, you have this little conflict that's happening between 2 of the characters, and so they sort of incorporate this aspect of, what was it called? It's a German name. This way of sort of the ceremony to make somebody your sister, even though they're not blood related. They do that kind of stuff. So. And yeah, just the histories of certain characters together and the futures of others. Your thoughts on what's your review on?
I didn't watch it.
You didn't watch it?
Not after the preview.
The backstory?
Yeah, pretty much.
You watched the preview, but you didn't watch the show at all?
No, the
first impressions.
First impressions.
Okay. Like, wait, I thought you watched at least some of it.
Yeah, it wasn't working for me, so I let it go. That's why I was making the joke. Well, I really, really want to know how this turned out into a banger.
I have not too much positive to say, so pre-warning, if you enjoyed this show, I'm happy you enjoy it. I think to give my thoughts in an objective way, I think pretty much what this show is going for is the idea of it's seemingly Yuri. So you do have characters that do have love interest between them. You have relationships building, some relationships even blossoming as the show goes along, some that were already established but have some sort of issue within them, and kind of seeing how these characters sort of have to deal with each other. There is a significant emphasis in this series about, the masks that we wear. Obviously, like I said, with Hime pretty much living her entire life as a lie selectively in order to sort of put herself in a good position that she thinks she's going to get into. And the early aspects that I really enjoyed about the show was the element of Hime going into this cafe where you think that she should do an amazing job. I mean, she's so good at tricking everybody. Why wouldn't she be great at tricking a bunch of people in this essentially a stage play / cafe? And it was sort of fun to kind of see how, despite the fact that she's so good at that, when it comes to an actual professional job, going up against some other people within this cafe, she's being thrown off because their acting is so much better than hers. And she's sort of conflicted in wondering, okay, are they being serious now or are they doing their job? And that's where it starts to slowly get into my frustrations that I had for the show. It's literally a show about everybody with facades, and so you never really know who's... Yeah, it kind of tries to give you a sense of who is acting and who is being serious at times, because you'll usually have them talk under breath after they say something grandiose in front of everybody. That it's obvious there what their intention is, but it just kind of turns into this whole thing of like, how do you care about a bunch of characters when their whole point is to have facades? And half their time they're spending is on the floor, and when they're on the floor, it just seems like Hime can't decide when she wants to believe them or not. It's just like, it's obvious what they're doing, and why don't you get it into your thick skull? Because I know what they're doing. Why would you not know what they're doing? Because it's not giving you their perspective. I'm seeing what you're seeing. Why do you not get this? And that's where the frustration started for me. It was like early on, I'm like, this has potential to have this really cool back and forth battle of the ability to create a facade for yourself and to essentially act and sell yourself as you are. But then it just kind of turned into a lot of frustrations. And a lot of that frustration for the first half was around Hime and Ayano Koji. Their relationship was so annoying. And their backstory was even more so annoying. Like, it's literally... I hated these characters because they're just a little bit too much. Like, it's so melodramatic, and it's just trying to push it so hard, and it just turns into the most stupid little kind of conflict between the two of them. And then, once, they sort of find some sort of ending to that arc, we get into the second half of it, which is pretty much Konoko. And then Konoko becomes the most annoying character in the show. It's like whoever the show is focused on, they become the most annoying thing about the show. So when Konoko becomes the focus, it's like, oh my gosh, this is so dumb. And it's so funny when I told somebody after, I was trying to finish the last 2 or 3 episodes, and I was struggling. I kept going to watch it, and then I would just go, I don't feel like this. And I would go watch another show. I think that's a really good sign for me personally, if your taste matches mine, a good sign for me that a show is just not for me 100%, when I literally have to force myself to finish it. I don't have that often. There's a lot of shows that I watch that are just dumb, they're not very creative or something. We'll get into it with like Aristocrats, not the most unique show in the world. I was able to stomach that a lot more than this show. As I was struggling to finish those last few episodes, I told somebody on Discord, I'm like, it is so sad when you have a show that literally has you, the entirety of it, say that you can fix everything with one simple phrase. Just stop working there. Like, literally every episode, I just felt like, Hime, just stop working there. Yes, Mai over here is acting like she's injured, but like just stop working there. Konoko is upset. Stop working there. Tachibana's backstory. Stop working there. Like it all comes down to, why are you even here? It sounds like you are just completely not liking this. Walk away. And that's the frustrating part about the whole thing. It doesn't make any sense why they're even there.
Yeah, the first couple of episodes, I liked the concept of it. My problem really kind of centered around the fact that there was, like Andrew had mentioned, the idea of the melodrama between the main character and her senpai, and it just became so overly done, and I didn't care for sitting there for 12 episodes waiting for it to resolve, which it was never going to resolve, because I'm sure that was 99% of their entire concept was this angst between the two, and even adding her best friend into the mix would have just, and I could probably gather where they went with that, was she was, when those two start becoming a little bit closer and not hating each other as much, then it would make the other girl really, really jealous, and so it would be just dragging on the whole same problem, and it wasn't fun. Is my problem.
Yeah, I think that's the sad thing, is because it, in concept, sounds like it makes perfect sense. Like I said before, it's that idea of somebody that's good at facades in a cafe, that their job is to have facades, to act. But yeah, it just turned into a lot of angstiness. And it was so funny because there was one little element that was so kind of core to two characters, and it was literally in the room. And I don't want to spoil it, but there is literally there, and they didn't touch it until the very end. And I'm like, why? Why would we not touch it until the very end? But yeah, it visually looked good for the most part. I mean, there was a few scenes where it wasn't all that visually good, but I like the style. I really do like the character designs and all that kind of stuff. It didn't deliver with the drama itself. So there you go. That's Yuri Is My Job. Check that out if that sounds interesting to you. Ranking of Kings, the Treasure Chest of Courage, or Osama ranking Yuki no Takarabako. This one's straight on Crunchyroll. I think it was 10 or 11 episodes. I think it was 10.
I don't know.
It was 10. Done by Wit Studio. Source is a manga. The genres are adventure and fantasy. And yes, for those who don't know, this is the, not really a sequel, but like the new trend right now in adaptations where they go, oh yeah, that's right, we skipped a whole bunch of stuff in season 1 when we adapted it. Here's that stuff. So it's just basically a bunch of little snippets that were within the first season that they just completely glossed over and just didn't actually adapt. And I felt like with the first episode, maybe the second episode as well, I was thinking, okay, these are going to be some really kind of, this makes sense. Like these little scenes were like, yeah, I can see why they cut this. It didn't seem like this was too significant. Honestly, made me feel like they were, I think somebody said at some point it was supposed to be original. I'm like, oh wait, no, this is actually getting into actual story stuff. I don't think and then somebody confirmed it. No, this is stuff that they completely cut. Getting into like the third and onward, like every single arc, every single episode is, in my opinion, things that were, when I was watching the first season, I was going, wait, why does this feel like I'm missing something? The prime example I always give people is Bebin. There was this one part where Bebin goes over and releases somebody from a prison and then sends them on their way to go after Boji. And I was like, wait, so why do you do that? Everything pointed to Bebin being Daida's sidekick. Why would he suddenly release Kage? Now we know why. Because it was literally skipped. Why certain fights ended the way they did, where this On lady showed up that was supporting healing. There's so many of these little like question marks I had watching the first season. This is why. There was these segments completely missing. And so that's what you're kind of getting with this one. The short end of, if you don't want to go back and listen to our reviews of Ranking of Kings, I have a video review of it. We did a podcast review of it. Easily one of my favorite anime of all time. Characters are absolutely phenomenal. It is a fantastic series. Please go watch it. And so when you get into this series, it's more of an aspect of like, okay, from now on, if somebody asks me about Ranking of Kings, I'm going to say, yes, 100% watch it. I was like that before. But now I can say, yes, 100% watch it, but go get a watch order, because you're going to want to watch these little snippets that they cut and put into the Treasure Chest of Courage, because I felt it answered a lot of questions I was having. But yeah, it was really incredible. And plus, there was 2 episodes I feel that were seemingly post season 1. One felt like it was like after all the dust settled, and kind of tells a little bit more past the first season. And then for sure, the last episode was like, holy crap, yes, we're getting into the next chapter, basically. Like, they literally stepped into the next chapter and sort of wrapped up one really key story bit that my big thing I was saying with season 1 was, I love Oaken. I loved Oaken's story, and I wanted to have like a redemption for Oaken. Like, I wanted his redemption story because it felt like it needed it. And that's where you pretty much get it, or at least you get a little continuation of what happens with Oaken. And that's what I wanted. Like, it gave me that satisfaction of what I needed to complete my love of the series. So, yeah. So I love it to death. Cannot suggest it enough. Like I said, I would highly recommend people doing a watch order for it if they ever start over the series. But, again, season 1, I highly recommend checking it out. It's just it's characters 101. And that's how I felt like it. With, like, every single character, they have driving forces. You get their driving forces. Sometimes you have like these really bad first impressions of them. They feel like villains, but then you understand them. You understand their driving force. And then you see where in some cases their driving force changes them to do something else. They change their dynamic. They're just, every one of them are fantastic characters.
Absolutely. The writer of this series absolutely knows how to subvert your expectations with all the characters easily.
Yeah. So did you end up finishing that?
No, I didn't. It will be watched at some point. This will be watched.
I'm surprised because like I want to say that when I watched that last episode, I was like, Chris's last episode was so good. Like, the last episode was so good. Because like I said, I was pretty wishy-washy about it. The first couple episodes was like, okay, these are just going to be like throwaway episodes. I understand why they cut this. And like I said, just kept getting better. Seeing Daida and some backstory of him and his relationship with Boji was like, oh, this is so good. Bebin's episode was fantastic. And like I said, everything around Oaken and the brothers, technically the brothers in general, Oaken, Desha, and Despa, I just love their dynamic. And what they kind of concluded with was like, super heartbreaking, but super good at the same time. Super good. But yeah, I'll shut up now. Go check out Ranking of Kings. It's great. Rokudo's Bad Girls, or Rokudo no Onotachi. This one is done by Studio Satellite, based on a manga, action, comedy, drama, romance, supernatural as the genres. And it follows a guy named Tosuke Rokudo, who is having a lot of trouble at school. He and his friends he mostly is getting bullied, and he and his friends kind of are dreaming of the day that they could have that dream school life they wanted, where they would have fun and all this kind of stuff. But no, it's being ruined because they're constantly being bullied. Well, one day he gets a gift from his grandfather, or at least a package from his grandfather, and he opens it up and it says, you're in danger, use this thing, and it's a scroll. And he's like, well, what's with the scroll? How do you even use it? And then it activates and it puts in like a mark on his forehead, and pretty much any girl that's a bad girl falls in love with him. And so he's walking down the street and some thug like mistreats him, but then his girlfriend next to him is like, oh, don't be mean to him. Why would you do that to him? He's so great. And then that kind of extends to even at school, all the bullies are losing their girlfriends to this guy because they're all falling in love with him and just going after him, even though they're all, again, bad girls. Doesn't affect good girls, just bad girls, because that makes it more fun. Well, over time, he ends up getting the attention of a very renowned, very well-known thug, Rana, which is a very violent girl that carries around a wooden sword, and she just beats up people for fun of it, just finds anybody and just tears them up. She falls in love with him, starts following him around, and yeah, it turns into that aspect of him being kind of caught up in situations, how the curse affects the situation, good or bad. At the same time, having some semblance of this is kind of a bad thing, that these girls' lives are kind of being misshapen by this curse. If you want to call it a curse, this blessing, I guess some people call it a blessing. And then, yeah, like different school gangs are all kind of coming after him and everything. So, yeah. Thoughts? Review? End thoughts? Did you watch it? No.
Yes, I did. Out of the gate, I was not expecting to like this show. The artwork didn't quite work for me, and I was really kind of holding out on this one. But the premise did interest me, and I was kind of curious as to how it would feel. Going into the show after the first few episodes, I was surprised that I enjoyed it as much as I did. It came across as a lot more kind of warm-hearted than I was expecting it to. The girls are not they're changing, but they're not necessarily. It doesn't feel kind of pushy in its changing aspect. It is a Gambare type character, and he's, I'm going to prove that being good is the best way to do things. And a lot of the girls just kind of, they like him, but eventually they just kind of warm up on their own. So I do really like the way a lot of the first few episodes did kind of play out. When they started getting to the motorcycle gang kind of arc worked to a point, and then eventually we got into this kind of ladder arc, which after a certain point, it started feeling like I kind of just wanted more meat on the bone with a lot of these stories, and I just felt like it was just right there at a comfortable place, and hopefully future, if they do bring, did they say that there was going to be another arc? I don't know. I'm hoping that if there is more, that there's going to be a lot more to a lot of these stories. As it is right now, it's just pretty much comfortable, and I like what it is. I've enjoyed most all of it so far.
Yeah, I think the easy statement is yes. Don't like how it looks. I mean, it sort of grew on me, but I never really did care for a lot of the character designs throughout the entire series. It's just not my style. There's a certain like older style feel to it at some points, but I don't think even with what Satellite was doing with it, they didn't make it shine. Like they could have possibly done something good with this art style, but in the end, it just felt lazy. Especially with characters like Sayuri. Most of the time, she just looked different in a lot of the scenes. And there's something to be said that, yes, technically the original manga is sort of the similar style to it, but it was a lot better. Like, the original style of the manga was a lot better. But no, getting into the show itself, I'm in the same mind as Chris. I think we were pretty shocked when we did our first impressions. It definitely was a lot more enjoyable than expected. You see in the previews of it was like, yeah, this is garbage, I'm not going to like it. But then we kind of made a joke that watch this end up being the one that we like, and we ended up liking it. But I am of the mind that I think about the time that Sayuri shows up, which was like pretty early on in the show, I was getting a kick out of it. I think we mentioned that in the first impression. Like, I'm like, this is a really cool twist to put into it, this idea of somebody that doesn't know what love is being affected by the spell, but not falling in love because they don't know what love is. So his mindset is, okay, I need to fix them before, like, make them not be a bad person anymore. That way they don't fall in love with me before they learn how to fall in love. And that was kind of a cool little twist. And I was like, okay, maybe if they keep doing things like this where they present some weird twist to love, it could make they can make each situation fun. But it didn't. How they kind of wrapped up Sayuri's story was pretty much watching him getting beat up again, which is pretty much how every single situation is mostly resolved, is he gets himself beat up and he just doesn't stop getting up, which is a trope in itself, this idea of the useless non-combatant that just does nothing but stand up over and over again until everybody stops and the situation is resolved. And that's kind of where it turned into. Just constantly Rokudo just kind of brute forcing everything and being the cool guy, and things kind of revolve around them either by somebody else stepping up or something else resolving it. And yeah, the whole later part of the series, the last arc, was just super shrug. It just kind of turned into a school brawler. Here's the new gang, they show up. Here's this other gang, they show up, and nothing really interesting came from beyond that point. There was one cool little aspect around Ranna herself that I was hoping we get an answer on, but we didn't really, which I'm guessing is something they may get into later on in the manga. But yeah, it was, I came in with no expectations. I was a little surprised early on. Ended up getting my hopes up a little bit, and then just kind of being disappointing in the end. It's just a very shrugged show at the end. So yeah, hopefully I didn't hype. Hopefully our first impression, I think we were pretty reserved with our statements in the first impressions. Like, not that it was incredible, just like it's surprising me, but didn't turn out to be that great in the end. So Rokudo's Bad Girls, check that out if you are interested. Magical Destroyers, or Maho Shoujo Magical Destroyers. This one was done by Yuri Animation Studios. Sources of original. The genres are Magic Girl. You have your hand up.
I'm gonna save you the trouble. I ran really, really far away from this one. Like I ran. So I didn't watch it. Just in case you're wondering, I ran really far away from this.
Okay. This one follows a guy that they pretty much name Otaku Hero. He is a guy that is trying to fight against the government itself. This group has risen up and pretty much taken everybody that is an otaku and threw them into cages and shipped them off. Took everything otaku related and threw them into bins and to be taken out to be destroyed. Yes, to make sure it's very clear to people, otaku is not just for anime. Otaku is just basically an obsession of a hobby in Japan. So you can be a train otaku or a TV otaku, an electronics otaku, yada, yada, yada. So they've taken everything pretty much hobby related, in a sense, away from everybody and pretty much seemingly brainwashed everybody to accept this whole idea and just, again, took over the entire world. And the guy named Otaku Hero, who's named Otaku Hero, he ends up one day getting alongside him 3 magical girls, and they rise up to fight against the system and build an entire revolt against the system. And yeah, it's early on pretty much has where he has to sort of regain all the magical girls because they seemingly gotten captured in some way. He has Anarchy by his side. She sort of kind of encourages him to rise back up, and he goes off to find Blue, who was captured, and she's got this little quirk about her that she likes really inappropriate things with involving, body to body. And then you have them going to get Pink, who Pink pretty much just didn't want to have. Pink was almost like she wanted to isolate herself from the situation. She ended up having some underground group that's just enjoying their time with, because her whole thing is toxics and stuff like that, hallucinogenics. And yeah, he gathers the gang back together and they go fight the bad guys. Yeah. Early on, really, really, really like this show. It was just kind of over the top in a sense of visually and presentation wise, while at the same time being kind of over the top with its expression of what it was kind of telling, which is this idea of pretty much sticking it to the system. I felt early on I got a strong sense that what it was kind of going for was this idea of the world won't accept what I like, and because it doesn't like me liking what I like, I'm just going to be unashamed about it and just pretty much, as I kind of pointed out with my first impressions, was stick the middle finger to them. And I love that. It felt like this was an anime that was made, or story that was made for every otaku that loves something, but yet society will not accept them. And that's essentially what the story is doing. Like I said, it's essentially the Otaku Hero that is fighting against everybody. Now, over time, I felt like it was still fine. Like getting into the 3rd and 4th episode, there was a couple episodes that were really fun. Like there was especially this one where it pretty much has old otaku versus new otaku. This idea of what the old otaku essentially are saying is, because you new otaku are so proud of your love for what you have, you're showing it too much. And because you showed it too much, they took note and they shut us down. You're supposed to keep it secret. Us old otaku, we kept that stuff secret. We kept that anime girl t-shirt under our work shirt so that nobody would see it. You guys were too showy. And I really love that. I got a massive kick out of that because I'm technically I'm the older, but I accept the new. And so my mentality is this idea of I have seen that progress and I sort of accepted it. Well, not myself really kind of going out and saying, look at me. I sort of see both sides. And so I had a lot of fun with that episode. And it really did kind of restore my hope for it. Like, okay, cool. There's some really clever writing here. But unfortunately, that's where it just kind of ended. Like after that episode, it was just kind of it just turned into a magical girl show. People fighting against each other, and there was one episode where it really got into Takuhiro's head and what was real and what was not. Honestly, the ending itself, the last reveal was very, oh, we're doing this. Okay. All right. Whatever. Conclude the show. Like when you have that big, massive, like quote unquote twist, and you're like, that's okay. We've done this. All right. Just wrap it up. Just okay. We know where it's going. Wrap it up. In the end, it was fine, but at the same time, I have to admit that I was a little let down, and to top that off, ever since like the second episode, the animation was just not there. Like they had a lot of fun, especially the second episode was super good. If you're gonna watch one episode of the show, watch the second episode. It was just there was references everywhere in this crazy mind-bending little thing inside of Pink's mind. It was super good. It was like one of those ones where you can pretty much pause it not frame by frame, but each scene and really see some reference, like Evangelion or something like that in the background. It was a lot of fun. Like they were going crazy with the animation. And then after that, it was just repeated animations, stills sliding across the screen, repeating certain shots, and then you notice that they're repeating the shot, but they didn't change the lip flap, so it's obvious they were repeating the same shot. It's just the quality went downhill really fast, and it was super unfortunate. So yeah, and in the end, I still liked it, but at the same time wasn't as I was hoping for what I was getting that feeling in early on throughout the entire series. But unfortunately, like I said, I only got maybe one more episode where it was like it felt like this speaks to me. Like this speaks to me on a spiritual otaku level. And then everything else was just kind of okay, we're just fighting and the monster of the week kind of thing, so shrug. Which is unfortunate because I got a lot of tension with my first impressions, even the creator himself tweeting out my review, and I'm like, or my first impressions, and I'm like, now I feel bad because like if I don't speak positively on this show, I'm gonna feel bad. I'm not gonna let something like that really dictate how I feel about a show. If it doesn't work, it just doesn't work. And it was, like I said, it was still good in the end, but at the same time, did not live up to the hype levels that I had early on, especially. So yeah, if you're interested, definitely check that out. But definitely a different type of magical girl. Definitely different. All right, moving on to My Love Story with Yamada-kun at level 999. Or Yamada-kun to level 999 no koi wo suru. And this one's streamed on Crunchyroll and for 13 episodes, done by Studio Madhouse. Sources of manga, genres are comedy, drama, romance. And yeah, this one follows a girl named Akane. And opening up the show, she is being broke up with by her boyfriend. He's like, look, I found some girl on that game we were playing together. Yeah, apparently she was trying to connect with him, so she started playing this Forest of Savior game, and apparently she was trying to get leveled up and everything to play alongside him, and he ends up going and finding some girl on that game, and yeah, wants to break up with Akane. It doesn't shock her too much because she did feel recently he was sort of feeling distant, so it wasn't too much of a shock. But it still kind of weighs down on her. You have that sense of her, feeling like she lost something and this part of her life is now gone. She feels a little betrayed. At the same time, she, pretty much goes out of her way in order to try to make him feel jealous by getting all prettied up and going to one of these Forest of Savior real life meetups, festival kind of thing. See if she can bump into him and be all prettied up. That way he'll be jealous of what he kind of lost. But yeah, she bumps into him, but doesn't say anything, and then ends up kind of falling, and this boy helps her out. And this boy ends up being like this very famous gamer. Like he does like a lot of FPSs. He's very famous. And so when her ex-boyfriend notices this guy, she immediately jumps onto him and says, "Oh yeah, this is my new boyfriend," which completely shocks him. But yeah, following this, it kind of turns into this aspect of Akane sort of roping this guy, which his name is Yamada, roping him into sort of going to a bar with her, and she kind of sobs about her whole situation, how she did all this stuff, but yet she doesn't feel like she won in the end. And eventually he gets too drunk to the point where he ends up taking her back to his place so that she can recover. And it sort of turns into this kind of chance encounter between the two of them as they meet each other. She ends up finding out that he's in the same guild that she's in the game of Forest of Savior. So they hang out with each other every now and then. And then other characters in the guild itself that she ends up meeting. It kind of shifts from this idea of a broken heart to how she sort of finds some sort of comfort in just playing this game that she was technically introduced to by her ex-boyfriend. And the people that she meets, these little meetups that they have, that the guild has, and sort of slowly overcoming her relationship break. And then hopefully forming new relationships. Question mark? Thoughts?
I didn't watch it.
You didn't?
Nope.
Did you watch any of it?
Just the first few episodes.
Oh, that's heartbreaking. I think you would really, really love this show. I know that early on, my biggest connection to this show was the idea of it felt like it could possibly fill in that gap that I now have because I loved Recovery of an MMO Junkie. Recovery of an MMO Junkie was a super good show. I really loved it. A lot of relatability to the characters. This idea of just wanting to play an online game, hang out with people, and just kill mobs online. And then at some point, kind of getting that little relationship kind of thrown in there with it, meeting people online and falling in love. And when I got into this one, I kind of had that same feeling. But I'm pretty open in saying that early on I did not like Akane. I just really didn't. She was extremely selfish. Basically in the idea that she kept kind of pulling Yamada into her little pouty session, which my heart breaks for her. I understand that idea of having somebody that you care for and then suddenly it kind of gets ripped from you. But at the same time, it was one of those elements of usually you don't see, especially in Japanese culture, you don't really see people this open with complete strangers, pouring out all of your problems onto somebody else. And how she was kind of pulling and keeping him there when he didn't want to be there. I was like, I don't really like this girl. But over time, I felt for her, and she kind of slowly grew on me. And what I kind of felt it kind of blossomed from that moment is this idea of, yes, understanding what she lost. Yes, understanding this relationship issue. But slowly seeing how she found comfort in just enjoying her time with others in this game. She almost, like I said, gets kind of dragged into playing this game. But not just that, outside of the game itself, meeting people, sort of being tricked in ways from other people, and seeing the true side of Akane. Because early on, you don't really know what kind of person she is outside of her losing her boyfriend. But over here, you're learning about, okay, so this is the kind of person that Akane is. I like this. I think she's a good person. And while at times it felt like it was a little bit too much, the whole situation with Runa, I felt was that was a little bit tasteless in how it was presented. I don't usually get offended by things like this, but it felt a little tasteless. I liked the end result. Akane is a good person at heart, and I liked seeing her encounters with different people and meeting new people. And I felt like as it went along, the romance, while it felt like I was the entire time going, okay, the story is my love story with Yamada-kun at level 99. Obviously, she's crushing on this dude. The dude looks hot. I mean, he's a hot-looking dude. Everybody thinks he's hot. He's literally constantly stopped by people because he's so hot. He's popular. He's got this successful career in being this gamer and everything. Everybody knows who he is. Where is the connection here? My biggest problem was, but that's a one-sided thing. Where are we getting into Yamada himself? I'm actually surprised because it wasn't as direct as I thought it would be. I think when they started actually getting into the romance of the show, which felt like it took a long time, when they finally got into the romance of the show, it felt intriguing in a way, because it was definitely not presented in the way that I typically get with romance shows like this. Like I said, usually it's very direct. Usually it's very clear. But Yamada himself is a very unique type of person. And it made sense because of how he was always in the show, especially early on. I mean, you probably felt early on, this dude doesn't talk.
Yeah.
I mean, does he have emotions? Is he a soulless doll? What kind of person is he? His focus, I want to get home, play my games. Gotta play my games. That's all he really cares about. Doesn't socialize with people or anything. Learning that other side of Yamada and how it affects that and why he's always been that way was good. It's kind of one of those shows where I think, like I said, early on I had my issues. As I got into it, I was like, okay, I kind of relate a little bit here. Okay, I'm starting to like Akane as a character. at some point going, what exactly are we going to do here? To eventually the ending I felt was super good. So it's like in the end it delivered. It just took a while to get there. So it is kind of one of those series that almost feels like it's a slow burn. But when it gets there and when it hits, it really does hit. And I really did like what they sort of set up in the end of it. So yeah, in the end, I really, really, really liked it. It took a while to get there. It just took a while to get there. And that's going to be something that's going to vary for a lot of people. Depending on, I think this is one of those shows that I think it depends on your relatability of the characters, whether it hits for you or not, especially early on. But I think in the end it worked out. And I do like the comedy of the series. It's very charming. The comedy is very, very charming. It's not slapstick. It's not over the top. It's not, vulgar or anything like that. It's just very, very charming comedy that it's a type of comedy that just makes you smile. It's not a laugh out loud. It just makes you smile. Like, oh, that was super cute. Yeah. In the end, I really, really liked it. I think it presented itself very well, despite the fact that I personally found it very slow at the beginning. So, yeah, check that out. Check out my love story with Yamada-kun at level 9999999 if that's interesting to you. The legendary hero is dead, or Yusha ga Shinda. This one is streaming on Crunchyroll for 12 episodes, done by Studio Leiden Films. Source is a manga, action, adventure, comedy, ecchi, fantasy. This one opens up with a guy named Toka, who he's living in this remote town, enjoying his crops. He has a certain, like in perfect thighs, which I completely agree. We find out that there is this hero of the world itself, has a hero party. At some point, they took down... There was this gate that opened to the depths of hell, and they pretty much sealed it back up. Well, these gates have opened back up, and so the hero himself is heading towards there once again. With Toka's perspective, we're seeing that, there is this concern about the devils and demons coming out once again, but he's enjoying his crops. His childhood friend Yuna, who he really likes her thighs, shows up and kind of criticizes him a little bit in the idea that he's so obsessed with his crops, but yet the world is in danger, and there's only a matter of time before the demons come and attack them, but he doesn't care. As long as his crops are good, he's even set up traps around his crops to make sure that his crops are safe. Everything's good. Well, one day, a demon shows up, starts attacking the town. Yuna's in danger. Toka's trying to figure out a way to save her, so he decides to cook some meat and fan it towards it, see if it can draw it towards him. That doesn't work. But then the hero shows up. The hero takes down the demon. Well, the hero smells the food, and he decides to walk over to Toka's yard and grab the food, and he falls into one of Toka's traps and dies. And the town's like, oh my gosh, you killed the hero. We're going to tell everybody you're in trouble. And he's like, oh, well, you tell people that a bunch of, like, a random kid in a village killed the hero. They're not going to believe you. And so he ends up talking the town into basically burying the body and covering it up. Well, the next day he wakes up in the body of the hero. And he's like, this is weird. Oh, I can use this as my advantage because my childhood friend Yuna likes the hero. So he goes over there to try to get her to dress up in some skimpy outfit. And then he hears the cackling of this girl named Henri, who's also falling in one of that holes. And she didn't fall all the way in it. She's just kind of almost falling into it. And she reveals that, yes, she's the one that planted him inside the body of the hero. Because apparently the hero at some point said, if I ever fall, I want you to find somebody capable to essentially use my body to continue on being a hero. So since he killed the hero, she feels that he is strong enough to take on the role as a hero. So yeah, the sucky thing is that his mana capacity sucks. So he doesn't even have enough mana to sustain the body from rotting. But still, he goes around and fights demons and tries to keep on the facade that he is Sion the hero. And yeah, runs into a bunch of old companions and people that have devoted their love to him and will do anything for him. And yeah, your thoughts?
All right, I gotta try to be nice as possible on this. I really, really liked the beginning of this show. It was absolutely hilarious.
The first episode was hilarious. So funny.
It really didn't have a lot of kind of barriers between this and another show that we'll talk about at some point. It just was absolutely a fantastic time with those two shows. And I really did enjoy a lot of the goofy nature of a lot of the stuff. And it held itself together as far as the way it looked for a lot of the show. I mean, it wasn't top tier or anything like that, but it definitely was not a bad looking show until the last few episodes. This is one of those every once in a while where people talk about the budget just went into the crapper. That's where this one is. It just, I mean, and for me to say something about it, it has to be really bad. I specifically remember watching, not even the last episode. It was the episode before the last. And me and Andrew had got to talk about it at one point. I was like, there was this one show that just went to hell in a handbasket. It just looks so garbage, awful. And I couldn't think of the name of it, but now I remember it was this one. Literally things were happening, or you could hear the sound of things happening on the screen and nothing was happening on the screen. It was just that bad. And I was really, really highly frustrated with it. Yeah. But story-wise, goofy story. Love the goofy concept. And yeah. Odd show.
I think it was for me, it was pretty consistently not visually good. I mean, the first episode was serviceable, but I think from the second point on, or the second episode onward, was pretty blah with the visuals, style and the character designs and all that kind of stuff. But I'm of two minds with the show. On one hand, I really do give it credit for just being kind of unashamed of its stupidity, at the same time raunchiness. Toka is a dirtbag through and through, and he does become a little bit redeemable in the later parts of it. You get his backstory and you see a little bit more of his driven nature of helping other people. But for the most part, he's like, it's kind of one of those shows where the main character is not a good person, and it's not a shame with showing that. He's always obsessed with thighs. He's willing to jump into a situation. If somebody says, hey, you have this chance, he's going to go, all right, show me where to climb. He's an opportunistic kind of person, and I do give the show credit for doing that. And I think if you like that kind of more raunchy and mature type of humor, it's definitely there to jump into. It's really kind of just around, for the most part, when the show tries to get into a driving force early on, I just felt like it felt like it was wandering. In the first episodes, I'm just like, what is really the goal here? Like, the idea is that you would assume, okay, he's going to be the hero, time to get the band together, go after the gates of hell. But it's like, no, we're not really doing that. What exactly are we doing for the most part? And so it felt aimless for quite a while. At some point, it gets a purpose, an aim, and it didn't really... It kind of pulled too much from the comedy itself, and at the same time did not provide me enough that was, worth replacing that with. So it's like, you pull the comedy away, give me something that's good, and what they gave me was just not all that interesting or entertaining. It's still kind of sprinkling comedy in there here and there, don't get me wrong, and the comedy there, when they do it, was fun, but I just felt like it just dragged in the later parts. Like, the later parts was kind of a slog to get through, and I didn't feel like it was enough to really, it wasn't satisfying enough in the end. So that's kind of where I sit with it. It's not a visually pleasing show. It has some really funny moments. Like, it's kind of one of those shows where you just have somebody show you the best clips, because they're just like these over the top moments that are like, holy crap, I can't believe they went there. Like restoring his mana. It has these what the heck moments in it that are just like, wow, I can't believe they did that. But it doesn't really warrant the show as a whole. I will say, though, I think that Yuna was great, and she's pretty much the Lucy ecchi that we wanted from Fairy Tail. I think most people agree with that. She's literally Lucy. But yeah, check that out if that's interesting to you. It's there. The most dysfunctional hero, I think, in a long time in anime. So I think that's another kind of fun aspect of it. The dude has a very floppy sword. That's It's a very floppy sword. Konosuba, an explosion on this wonderful world, or Konosubarashi Sekai ni Bakuen wo. This one's streamed on Crunchyroll for 12 episodes, done by Studio Drive. The source is a light novel. It's a spin-off from the original series. Genres are adventure, comedy, and fantasy. And for those who don't know, Konosuba is a series about a guy that gets isekai'd into another world, ends up dragging the goddess that he, makes a deal with him into this other world. It's a fantasy world where he's got like crap skills and everything, and struggles from the bottom trying to survive. And at some point, he ends up being partied up with a girl named Megumin, and she is this girl that is obsessed with explosion magic. That's all she does. She goes on the battlefield and she uses explosion magic. It uses up all of her mana. It destroys pretty much everything, and then she passes out. Or doesn't really pass out, but they have to drag her back to the town because she can't even move. Well, this is a spin-off series that just follows Megumin from her origin stories, being in this town where all of the people of her clan live, and eventually when they get to a certain age, they train magic and how to pose and all that kind of stuff until eventually they go out into the world. And then, she goes out into the world, and all the while you have this backstory around Megumin and how she first got her inspiration in explosion magic. She was very young. She seemingly released this demon from its seal, and then this lady showed up and one-shot the thing with explosion magic, and she said, well, you helped me out there. What can I do to repay you? And Megumin says, well, teach me that explosion magic. And she's like, I don't think you want to learn that. No, teach me explosion magic. No, I think she gets like 3 different. It was teach me explosion magic. It was like world domination, and what was the other thing? It's like everything that she asked. The lady's like, I can't really do that. She's like, well, you said anything. But yeah, it inspired her. That's what she wants to learn. But then, as she learns in the academy, explosion magic is sort of a joke spell, as they put it, in the idea that yes, it technically spends all of your mana. It's not really applicable to anything. You just blow up a bunch of things in a massive area. There's no other purpose that it serves. So, but she still wants to do it. So, yeah. Later on, she's joined by Yun, who's like her self-proclaimed rival. And, her sister comes across this cat named Chimosuke. And Chimosuke is constantly trying to be taken back by this demon girl. And, that's pretty much, for the most part, the idea of Konosuba Explosion on This Wonderful World. Thoughts? ...
This is hard.
That massive area Andrew has to delete.
I really want. I going through the first few episodes, it was kind of difficult. It was fun in a lot of cases. It was kind of goofy seeing a lot of the Megumin being hard-headed about the whole idea that she has to get to a certain skill level, and she won't learn any other skills except for explosion, which is part of her character. You do go into it understanding that if you've seen the first Konosuba. But in all honesty, I mean, while I had a chuckle here and there, a smirk or a smile here and there, going through a lot of the goofier antics between Yun and Megumin. Yun is absolutely probably about the one thing that just carried the show in a lot of cases. In a lot of cases, I was just really, really frustrated with the scene, and yeah, I would enjoy a joke here and there, but when Yun would come in, she just absolutely would save the day in a lot of cases, and I was able to enjoy the scene a lot more. But truth be told, it wasn't until probably the latter third when they finally got to the first town. And this would be the first town for the actual Konosuba, not the actual, her first town. This was when she got to the beginner's town. Suddenly they started referencing the other show, and basically Aqua and Subaru, Kazuma. In the other doing doing their other things, and I started having fun. It was so goofy seeing things from Megumin's perspective of what was going on when these things were happening, and it was absolutely too fun. And I actually really started to enjoy a lot of the humor and a lot of that stuff together. And when everything came in full circle, it was absolutely, to me, really, really was worth the wait. But those first few episodes were really kind of hit and miss as far as the jokes for me, at least.
I divide it into 3 segments as well. I mean, you have pretty much hometown. You have the second town that she went to, which was like the whole, which if I remember correctly is pretty much the church that they get into with the second season of Konosuba.
Yeah, I think so too.
Aqua's Axis or whatever that it is. So you pretty much see the origins of that whole thing there. And then you have the third arc, which is pretty much her going to the original starter's town, which is like the weakest of the area. The first arc was okay. I think I got most of my laughs out of just how absurd the town is. And there are a lot of people corrected me in the idea that technically the movie, I guess, apparently indicated the fact that the town that's Megumin's not, like, I always had the feeling that Megumin was just kind of this oddity about that clan. No, everybody there is nuts. And it almost felt like everybody outshined Megumin in the earlier segments. So I'm like, why is Megumin even here? It doesn't feel like she's even shining at all amongst this group. She was getting drowned out like significantly, and just seeing how absurd the town is, how they'll just destroy it just to have fun and just rebuild it, was wild. I got a chuckle out of just how crazy her hometown is. But for the most part, it was okay. And then getting into the second arc, most of it was a blur. Like I got a chuckle here and there, the idea of like how they're essentially trying to bait people into going to church and all that kind of stuff, and how she's trying to help them figure out these scam ways of doing it. But it just wasn't really working at all. I think that was like one laugh I got was at the end of it when this demon finally shows up to take Chimusuke and they just completely make her run away screaming. I agree that the last arc was definitely the strongest, and that's where we finally got Union and Megumin like really their chemistry really taking off. The travel there technically was as well. I mean, the travel itself and the idea that Megumin doesn't want to do anything and Union has to handle everything. Union and Megumin just work. Union definitely carried the show for me. Like, I probably wouldn't have had any fun with the show as a whole if it weren't for her. Because I think she just works so well with Megumin. You can't, unless you have, yes, technically Kazuma and Aqua and Darkness and all them, you don't really have much of a show unless you have Union involved, is really my point in the end. I think overall, the show overall, I'm very disappointed because I was coming into this expecting Konosuba. And rightfully so, it's technically a spin-off. It's not really Konosuba. But I was wanting that. I was wanting that weird and over-the-top nature, and I just wasn't getting it for the most part. And to be honest, I've sort of fallen off Konosuba ever since the second season. The second season wasn't that great for me, and that's partly why I didn't rush into getting the movie, though I did hear that the movie was really, really good. But yeah, in the end, I was very disappointed in the show. I think it looked fine. I'm sure that Drive will be able to handle the third season well enough. But I think in the end, very disappointed. But I had a chuckle here and there. Union. Just Union. That's all. The sister was great too. The little sister was super great. Just getting into pure danger and doesn't even realize it. So yeah, that's Konosuba, an explosion on this wonderful world. Vinland Saga. I'm not going to get too much in the weeds on this one just because this is a second season. So like literally 3 to 4 cores into it, depending on which core you're looking at. I will say, I think for those that may have missed my review of the first season, I really did enjoy the first season. It took a long time for me to really get into it, but I did enjoy it in the end. It's basically the concept of Vikings and this boy losing his father and trying to get revenge for his father while being kind of strung along by the one that killed his father. Eventually kind of getting into essentially the kingdom itself in the lands and this lost lineage to the kingdom itself and restoring it. Yeah, getting in the second season, it's a lot to do with sort of seeing how Thorfinn has changed over the many years, because there's a pretty significant time gap between the first season and the second season. And what we kind of find out with the beginning of the second season is you find out where Thorfinn ended up becoming, which is a slave. And he's working on this farm, and you're pretty much seeing through technically the perspective of Einar, who is the newest slave to come to that farm. Through the perspective of Einar, you're seeing essentially this broken Thorfinn. How he can't sleep at night. He has pretty much dreams of all the people that he's been involved with killing. And you find out, yes, that technically Einar himself his entire family and farm and village was a victim of the Vikings themselves. So obviously you have a victim of the Vikings and one of the Vikings pretty much bunking together. But it's kind of through the two of them being equals in the idea they're both slaves, tilling the land, creating a farm, all the things that kind of are happening surrounding them. Yes, technically getting into what Canute himself is doing this entire time, I think is where a lot of the development is actually happening. It is essentially Thorfinn's redemption arc, essentially. Like, you're seeing how somebody can go from being essentially a child soldier into not wanting war at all anymore, seeing how he's been in turmoil the whole time and how that's ultimately shaped him, and seeing pretty much everything that happens with the farm itself and what it kind of pulls Thorfinn into. I think in the end, it's so surprising this show was 2 cours. I think the main telling thing for me right now is that this was 2 cours. I truly do think that this show should have probably been maybe 13 to 15 episodes at most. Because while I do love the story, the characters, the story, everything is absolute perfection. This writer is so good at writing characters, showing how they've developed over time, having such this massive time period that's sort of spanned, seeing how the introductions of all these other new characters, essentially like the sons of the farm owner, and one of them desiring to be a soldier while the other one is a soldier, and the history of the owner himself and how there's a lot of stories behind him being this great warrior, all that stuff. Every character they introduced, and Einar himself was fantastic. This writer knows how to develop characters and really kind of shape them and mold them. The problem is, and I'm not even going to subscribe to the joke that was coming into this season. Everybody was calling it Farmland Saga. I'm not even bothered by the fact that it was mostly taking place on a farm. That most of this story was Thorfinn and Einar building a crop, which is a very long, drawn-out process. Looking at you, farming life in another world, is a very long and strenuous process. I'm not bothered by the idea of it being Farmland Saga. I'm perfectly fine with this kind of chill vibe for the most part, and seeing these characters grow. Seeing that success, working in your own field, they literally had to clear the trees too. We're talking that much. Seeing this developing in the characters and the bonds they create and the struggles they ultimately have, like with Einar himself. What would he think if he found out that Thorfinn was one of the Vikings he hates so much? Einar himself, and the idea that he once had a village that he lived in. They rebuilt it from the point that it was destroyed before by Vikings, and they rebuilt it, and then it got destroyed again, and he lost his entire family. Going and basically becoming a slave. What kind of disconnect that is. It's a very heartbreaking experience that I would not wish it upon my worst enemy. Seeing all this was great. Being on the farm was fine. My problem comes in that I don't think this should have been 24 episodes. Because every scene felt like it was just 5 seconds too long. 10 seconds too long. Every cut was just too long. It wasn't that the pacing's bad. It just felt like the composition of the scenes themselves it's almost like somebody was like, okay, we just finished animating Vinland Saga. Oh, great. We're already set. The season's coming up. Let's go. All right, cool. Where's the first episode? It's a slight problem. What's the problem? The runtime, it's maybe 13, 14 episodes. All right. How do you think we should fix that? Well, we were thinking of just kind of hitting Control A and then grabbing the last part. We'll just
just drag it out. Just drag it. And then it'll extend every scene just enough that it'll fill out that 24 episodes. That's what the show felt like for me. Now, I've yet to hear anybody that agrees with me on that. I think I've a few people I've kind of expressed that to, and they're like, yeah, I kind of feel it, but it doesn't bother me. Other people are like, I don't get what you're talking about. So it's not going to be the same for everybody. Just for me personally, it was just kind of one of those feelings like I'm watching the episode, and then it just shows this field a little too long, and I just about get ready to hit the forward 5 seconds button before it finally catches on. And that frustrated me for the book. And then they did that also with a lot of scenes too. There was a lot of added scenes that I felt didn't really fit. And then when I checked the manga, come to find out, oh, that's completely original. Apparently they wanted to have an extra scene here, so they decided to create new stuff. I'm sure the original writer was involved with it, so I don't think that it's the MAPPA just pulling stuff out their bum. But again, it kind of just adds that element of I think that they were just trying really hard to make this 24. But again, still, in the end, visually amazing. The perspective shots, the backgrounds, the vistas, everything looked absolutely gorgeous. What fighting there was looked amazing. A lot of the artistry, the setup of emotion, how they expressed that emotion. The whole scene of Thorfinn being pulled down into this sort of hell was so good. Like, it was just like, there was a part of me that one aspect of it was making me smile a lot, but that was the other aspect that was just kind of giving me that dread of what he was going through. The portrayal of a lot of things and struggles that Thorfinn's going through was so well done. Again, Thorfinn, technically in the first season, I hated him. He was literally the reason why I didn't like a lot of the first season. What I loved about the first season was Askeladd. It was Canute. It wasn't Thorfinn. This season, I finally like Thorfinn as a character because I think he's done so much growth in such a seemingly short time, but actually a significant time. So it sort of has me excited.
He's not still whining about his dad?
Not really.
Jeez, what happened to this show?
I think they announced the third season. Yeah, I think they announced the third. Yeah, I think they announced the third season. I think there's an announcement for a third season. It could have been a leak. I'm so tired of I know when something's a leak or not. Like, it's so easy to spot. But I think the problem that I'm having now is, like, we're getting to the point now where you're trying to remember if you already vetted that something was a leak or if it was true or not. I would love another season. I'll just say that. I would be welcoming another season for sure, because this whole season was literally a build-up to what Thorfinn's going to do next. And so it almost felt like a middle ground. Like, first season was seeing Thorfinn, his revenge arc. Second season is him finding new purpose. Third season is deliver purpose. I don't know. So I would definitely love to see where this story is going from here. But yeah, really good ending too. So hopefully I haven't spent too much time complaining about the pacing, but it is what it is. That's Vinland Saga, second season. All right, let's move on to The Dangers in My Heart, or Boku no Kokoro no Yabai Yatsu. This one streamed on High Dive, ran for 12 episodes, done by Studio Shinny Animation. Sources of manga, genres are comedy, romance, slice of life. And this one follows a boy named Kyotaro Ichikawa. And Ichikawa, as we find out really early on, he has some very dangerous thoughts. He pretty much likes reading murder mysteries and stuff like that, and constantly is thinking about horrible things happening to his classmates, including one such individual, Yamada, who is very pretty. She's like one of the prettiest girls in the school. Kind of find out she's also even a model. And he just thinks that she is always looking down upon him and just wishes for the day that he could see her covered in blood. Well, as he regularly visits the library because he's kind of an outcast, he kind of likes to hang out in the library whenever he can, just sit there and read his books. Eventually, one day, he finds Yamada in there. She's hiding away in the library eating snacks because she really likes snacks. And she doesn't like eating snacks in front of her friend because apparently her friend is allergic to snacks, which doesn't make any sense, but we'll go with it. But she's hanging out there, and over time, he's very frustrated with this. Like, oh, why is this girl here? She's bugging me. And then eventually over time, you see how he's kind of going out of his way to help her out with situations. And eventually kind of sees her in her worst moment, seemingly worst moment, a really bad moment, something that really kind of puts her through the ringer, really upsets her. And it sort of changes his perspective. He suddenly realizes he thinks he has feelings for Yamada. And yeah, sort of seeing the two of them as they interact or not interact, and the struggles that Ichikawa himself kind of has with his new feelings. So, your thoughts on Dangers? You better not say you didn't watch it.
I didn't watch it.
I will smack you.
I
will smack you.
I didn't even watch the first impressions.
Smack. I wasn't even here for the first impressions. He left the room, and I turned the Vocaloid back on. It's always been a Vocaloid.
No, I really, really love this show. I absolutely love the ultimate message in this story, which is honestly just kind of acceptance. And that all is the final scene, kind of this acceptance of something that you truly don't believe that anybody will accept, somebody accepting just for who you are. And I really did truly love that message coming out of this show when all was said and done. It's very, very touching. It takes a while to kind of get to a point where you feel like, okay, I see where you're going with this. And it's really just a kind of a slow burn, just honest, just truly accepting each other for who they are. And I really do love that story came out in the end. And I highly suggest it.
Early on, I think when I first started the show, I was assuming it was just another perfect waifu show. Like, Yamada is super hot. She's thick. She's tall. And that was kind of my perspective. I'm like, okay, let's do this. Another teasing girl, another perfect waifu show. All right, let's watch it. Oh yeah, look, she's super cute. She's being goofy, eating her chips like the character from Inukai-san's dog, biting the dog's face. Great, cute, or whatever. It wasn't until the moment that Yamada has like her issue, which was essentially that she got hit in the face with a ball, and she's a model, so obviously that's detrimental to her. That's her face is her selling point. That's what she's selling in these mangas, or these magazines. And so it's really, really a big deal for her, and she's just destroyed by it. She's not going to meet the expectations of her manager, her mother, and she admits, no, they said that it was perfectly fine, it's okay, but she was still broken by this. And it was Ichikawa seeing that ultimately changes how he views Yamada. She's not this perfect person, this person that's looking down upon him. And I think from that point on, which I think it was like the third episode, maybe then the fourth episode, from that point on, it just took off. Like, the show, literally every single minute of the show after that got better and better and better and better. It was just a very beautifully portrayed story of two people sort of finding commonality. And there was so many things kind of mixed up within it as well that I think are individual storylines that I think really did sell me on this show. First of all, the presentation. Studio did an incredible job with the show. It was just gorgeous. The impactful scenes were so beautifully portrayed. A lot of these more emotional moments, they love those, like, towards the later part of the episode, if not the end of it, towards the later part, having these ramp up emotional points where just the animation just kicks up, the characters are just looking at each other, and things are just getting so emotional. And then add into that Kensuke Ushio, which, for those who don't know who that is the musician behind Silent Voice, Liz and the Bluebird, did some Chainsaw Man here recently, and Hike Story. This musician is absolutely incredible. This is a person that I'm going to be keeping an eye on going forward, because I don't know why I didn't notice that it was him doing this show, because something hit me at some point. It was like the episode where, I think it was the episode where they had the candy and he was trying to stop her in the library. It was like, suddenly I realized, I'm like, I've been trying to figure out why this show works so well. And it finally hit me. It's what's happening to me when I'm watching it. I'm feeling the emotion. And I don't normally get that to that sort of that style of getting emotion. Typically, it's you relate to the character and you get emotional. You know what they're going through and it just hits you super hard. You see the loss of somebody and you're like, I feel you. It's breaking me too. I understand what you're going through. Dealing with certain different diseases and whatnot that some characters might go through, and you're going, I know you. This was one of those, like, I don't know why, but my stomach, I feel it. And I realized at some point it was the music. The music literally was hitting me. It was almost like each punch of the keyboard was punching me in the stomach. Ushio has a style, and that is to essentially, it's a very deep recording. You feel the integral details of the note. Like if you have a piano and somebody presses a button, it's almost like you feel that rod inside there come up and hit that chord. And it hits you in the stomach, and I think it does it. How they, integrate that into the scene itself, you feel sort of the emotional drive that's happening in Chikawa, and that's when I realized what that was, and I realized what was hitting me, and I realized everything else that I was loving about the show. I suddenly said, "This is a special show." I suddenly dropped what I was doing. I made a video, and I said, "People, this show is something special," and I just figured it out. What was happening before then was just the natural characters and their interactions and the emotion and Yamada struggling and Ichikawa trying to figure out what he's feeling, and at the same time Ichikawa not feeling adequate. He always feels like he's not good enough. He's never good enough. This person's playing with me because I am not good enough. I never had a chance with this girl. I will never have a chance with this girl. Seeing that doubt, at the same time seeing, not through inner dialogue, which I think was another special thing about the series. You never hear what Yamada's thinking. You never get a perspective shot of Yamada. You always have to try to figure out what she's thinking. Does she like Ichikawa? Is she playing with him? Does she just like to be around him? Does she love him? It's always a question mark. And I love how, as the series went along, I'm just trying to figure it out based on her body language. Again, another credit to the directors and everybody involved. You can see what Yamada's thinking based on her expression. The one example I give is one of the early episodes. He basically is going to borrow some manga from her. And so they meet, and she's waiting for him in the front of the school. And then he arrives there, and he's like, well, she must be waiting for somebody else. And then she chases him down and says, wait, I have it for you. And hands it over. And then it proceeds to spoil, the biggest, plot point early on. And he's like, are you spoiling things? She's like, no, it's not that big of a deal. And then what happens is he starts walking into school. And she's following aside him, and he's going, wait, why are you following me? Aren't you waiting for somebody? And she goes, oh, yeah, you're right. And then she kind of hesitates, but she turns around and she slowly walks away. You knew that she was embarrassed kind of having that pointed out, but she did want to walk with him. He was who she was waiting for. It's those little... It's like typically I get so annoyed with lack of communication. And it's mainly because you know that there's something that can be said that's not being said. This is one of those shows whenever you need something said, the characters say it. But for the most part, things aren't communicated. But it's not to the detriment of the show. It balances it so well. And on top of that, I don't really necessarily feel like a lot of side characters were interesting, but Moiko had a great episode. And the sister. I love the sister so freaking much. I just adored this show. I adored it through and through. I am so happy it's got a second season coming. My only fear I have right now is I hope they have the same group working on it, same Uishio involved with it, the director and everybody still involved with it, because this team, this is one of those rare examples of a team that really takes a medium and makes it the medium. Kind of like I said with Onimai, it's not the manga, it's an anime. This one's not the manga, it's the anime. And to have a team that works on something and makes something so special is great. It is literally a show that I'm still feel bad that I didn't put it in my top 5 of the greatest shows early on in the season, but it will definitely be in my top list for the end of the season. Still trying to figure out if it's going to take a 1 or 2 slot. There's just the top 3 right now for the season is massively it's a battle royale, and I'm trying to figure out which one's going to end up there, and I can ask me one day and I could probably tell you that this is easy number 1 of the season for me, but it's fighting for it. I love it death. Visually, audio, voice acting, music, presentation, writing, everything. It's easily one of my favorite. I don't even want to call it a comedy because it has chuckle moments. This show is such a natural comedy type of show. Yamada just does something kind of goofy. It's not a comedy. It feels like a slice of life romance, through and through. So very heavy in that regard. So, but again, when it does comedy, it's great. It feels so natural, and I love it. So, yeah. Somebody told me that there was something that wasn't adapted. I do really want to read the manga on this one. Somebody told me that something was skipped in the adaptation that I'm sort of frustrated with. Remember the whole scene where they were at the clothing store?
Yeah.
Apparently, you remember where the sister shows up and he says, "Not now." Apparently, the sister had texted him saying there's some kids in one of the dressing rooms being lovey-dovey. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they cut that. That's so good. I love the sister. Yeah. Danger to My Heart, 100% recommendation. Love it, love it, love it. And gosh, High Dive with Danger to My Heart and Oshinoko alone, they got the good ones. Let's take things back a little bit of a notch. We got a little bit too positive, so we got to get a little negative again. We gotta the balance must be maintained in the universe. Let's talk about My Home Hero. Don't get me wrong, I don't hate the show, but it's just not gonna be me gushing for hours on end. Why can I not type why? But yeah, My Home Hero, which is on Crunchyroll for 12 episodes, done by Tezuka Productions. Which is not in my happy field right now. I'm not positive on Tezuka right now. Sources and manga. Genres are action, drama, thriller. But yeah, this is of course by the creator Naoki Yamakawa, who did I'm Standing on a Million Lives. But yeah, this one opens up with Tetsuo Tosu. And Tetsuo is currently trying to meet up with his daughter. She's apparently going to college and everything, and he's just trying to meet up with her because she's living on her own. He just wants to check in on her. And she shows up at this restaurant with a bunch of like glasses and a hat and a mask. And he's like, did my daughter turn into a celebrity? She finally removes it, and he comes to find out her face is very bruised. And he's like, what happened? And she doesn't want to talk about it, ends up storming out. Well, he decides to do some investigation. He knows that she has a new boyfriend. And as he's looking into it, he ends up finding that the boyfriend is part of essentially a Yakuza group. And so as he's doing more investigation, trying to figure out what's going on, he ends up searching his daughter's apartment, see if he can find anything in there. And then the boyfriend shows up and he hides in a closet. The boyfriend's talking on the phone to some guy who pretty much turns in. It's kind of like one of those guys that you would talk to, like a cleaner, somebody that takes out people they want to get taken out. And kind of find out that this cleaner has pretty much cleaned up after him before. He has had girls before that he got a little too rough with, and they had to get rid of the body. And he admits that he was, only, going out with this girl because he wanted to take her grandmother and grandparents' money. And so at some point, the boyfriend's about to discover that Tetsuo is inside the closet. And so Tetsuo, in a panic, busts out the closet, beats him over the head with a rice cooker, and kills him. Well, after this, we kind of find out, he has to hide the body. His wife shows up, and the wife is very supportive, and comes to the realization that, we can't just tell the police because this is the Yakuza. They're going to come and kill the entire family. We got to do what the Yakuza do. Let's get rid of the body. So they go through this whole process of getting rid of the body. Well, since I didn't mention it, but Tetsuo is like this big mystery novel reader and writer. So he knows all these little kind of things in mystery novels that you can, get rid of bodies and kind of stuff that normally would come from that. And so he is trying to dispose of the body while trying to cover up the fact that their family was even involved with the death of the boy, because kind of find out this boyfriend is the son of this particular Yakuza group, the boss. So even though he was kind of a somebody that most of the people in the group hate because he just causes problems, he's dearly loved by the boss himself, so they got to find out who killed him. And so their first suspect is obviously Reika, because he was at that apartment when he died, when they last seen him, and so they assume that Reika or somebody got involved with his death. So yeah, it just kind of turns into Tetsuo trying to protect his family, and with the help of his wife, cover up the death of this guy. The entire time Reika is a little bit kind of broken by it, because she liked aspects of him, but of course he was using her. So yeah, it's turns into kind of a little cat and mouse game, trying to hide evidence while at the same time produce evidence, kind of misdirect the people trying to figure out what's going on. At some point, they even have somebody essentially tag along with Tetsuo at all times and keep track of him to try to find out if he was involved. So yeah. Did you watch any of this?
Nope.
I was kind of wondering if you would end up watching it because of the fact that it was the Million Lives writer. Nope. But I don't know that is a pull enough for it, because you liked Million Lives, didn't you?
Yeah, generally.
I had issues with the main character mostly, and his state of mind, but yeah, early on I hated this show, and it was mainly around the fact that I felt like, especially that first episode with what Tetsuo does, you would think that he would be a lot more conflicted about what he just did. It felt like they were rushing things. From what I understand, they burned through so many volumes adapting this, so they seemingly the pacing was way off. And I sort of felt this because I was like, why is this not a little bit more? Why is there not enough emphasis put on the fact that what he just did? Like, it just doesn't feel like maybe you can chop it up as caught in the heat of the moment, not really sitting still to realize it. But later on, they do have times where he thinks about it, and so it's like, why is this not a little more impactful to the character? But I think what kind of kept me going with it was my first inclination, and especially I think when we did our first impression, I was like, look, I think I'm just going to stop watching this and just read the manga. It feels like this is one of those cases of like, you're going to ruin a good story that you could have by reading the manga by watching this adaptation. Just like I said with Some of Spider So What, I told most people, just go read the light novel, because from everything I hear, the light novel is amazing. And what I got here, it looks bad. It's not portrayed good. This might be another one of those cases. It might be one of those ones where just, if you like reading manga, go read the manga. If you don't like reading manga, in the end, I did really like the show. I just didn't like the first couple episodes. I felt like it was just too rushed. The characters it wasn't selling me on the emotion of the scene, what was happening. But what I liked about this, and this is where the writer, I think, themselves sort of started to shine, is the cat and mouse game. I loved the constant back and forth of, again, like I said, produce evidence, hide evidence, sidestep the evidence, misdirect people that are looking into things. And I think they did that really, really well. I loved seeing all this stuff that Tetsuo was putting together and trying to craft in the situation. And then adding to that, the wife. My gosh, every best moms in anime list must have updated with this season, because Kase and his wife she's phenomenal. Like, one of the early scenes is when Reika is like, kind of a little bit upset because they can't find her boyfriend, and she's a little upset by it, but then she's like, the mom's examining your face. Did he hurt you? Any man that would touch you deserves to die. And then later on, you have this one person that's getting a little bit too close to the truth with Tetsuo, and he's prodding, and he keeps prodding. And what does he say? She says off the side, he's looking into it too much. I think we need to get rid of him. Like, this is a mom. This is a mama bear. Just seeing her fangs come out and her claws, it was like, I love this lady. She's willing to do anything for her family. She's getting in there. She's getting her hands dirty. I love it. It's one of those things where you rarely see parents in anime anymore. So it's like, to have a show where you have such a good, solid mom character really does hit you. I love her to death. She was great. But a solid cast overall. I didn't really feel like I cared too much with how they portrayed the mob boss guy himself. They do eventually try to get into his mindset, and it turns into this aspect of essentially two fathers fighting each other, and grief and self-preservation of family kind of coming in conflict. But I think it was good enough in the end. But overall, I think it was a really solid story, even though it's still ongoing. I think they still have another set of, they could do another season essentially. Even if that's the case, it still felt like it came to a really solid closing point, and that's probably why it rushed so much, because they wanted to get that solid closing point. In the end, like I said, I enjoyed it. Tezuka Production didn't do a really good job of the visuals. Animation in some cases was not even there. It was like a set of 3 stills to portray literally somebody throwing people off himself and going down the hallway and leaving a building. But it still portrayed that core story, which I think was a really good little case of cat and mouse. So, yeah. If that's something you're interested in, definitely check out My Home Hero. Dr. Stone, New World. We're finally leaving the island, Chris. It's time to venture out. Well, not really. Well, they were building a ship. But yeah, Dr. Stone's New World. It pretty much, I think, a good jumping off point from the previous seasons when we pretty much have for those who don't know, world gets this weird color happens in the sky and everybody turns to stone. And then, was it 3,000 years later, Senku, the main character, who's like a child genius, pops out of the stone and devises a way of curing the stone formness, which is using bats guano or whatever, and creating this solution that can get rid of the stone that's encasing everybody, and basically rebuilding civilization. You find out Senku wanted to go to space, and since the civilization has basically been reset at this point, he's going to use his knowledge of everything science to essentially give the world a speed run. We're gonna go billions of years of progress in a matter of years because I want to go to space. I think he wanted to go to space. Wasn't that his original hope? He just wanted to re-advance civilization, and I think it was because he wanted to go to space.
Yes, I believe so.
But yeah, his father technically went to space, so it makes sense. But he builds a group. They advance mankind. They find civilizations that were kind of, building over time. And then going into this season, we've lost the ability to create the solution. So he wants to find this capsule, which has platinum, so he can create endless solution to cure the stone form. And so they go to this other island and discover some people there that can turn people into stone. So plot twist. And yeah, I don't really know that I want to do a review right now because they kind of just stopped.
Yeah.
This is a split core, now that I remember it. It just kind of stops. But yeah, they discovered this thing, and they're this group they're trying to take down. Still love it, though. I still love it. I really liked Usui's the movie, or OVA, whatever. And I think Usui himself was a great addition to the cast. Not sure if I'm feeling so much the new group, or at least one or two people they've introduced so far. Pulling a new character out of their butt out of nowhere. Oh yeah, there's this guy on the boat with us. He's always been a part of the group. He apparently came here from the island. I was like, okay. It almost felt like the writer just pulled that one straight out of nowhere. Like, oh, let's just create a new character out of nowhere. He's always been around. Don't worry. Don't look. Just accept that he's always been around.
Here's what's fun. He has memories of the islands, but he doesn't remember the island.
He remembers everything when he was an infant, because he was like a little kid too. It was okay. It was bizarre. It was absolutely bizarre. But I don't really know that I'm feeling. I do like the twist when they first arrived. There was a twist there in the idea that somebody has the capability, but at the same time, it was like one of those. Everything else around the island so far, I'm not really digging. It really kind of shifted into the idea of infiltration and using their skills to infiltrate, but they sort of kind of dabbled a little bit into that with the Stone Wars whole segment, because they had to infiltrate there as well. So I don't necessarily feel like it's doing anything new, but at the same time, overall, I've always had this weird love for Dr. Stone. I never put it in top list for myself. I never think it's like my favorite show of any season, but I always really enjoy the series, and I watch it through. Always entertained. I never really figured it out, but I still love it. So, but yeah, there's a pretty bad drop off. Yeah, like see you in October.
Yeah, I enjoyed myself watching the show. I kind of liked the giving them reasons to do the things that they're doing, like when they get into the island or into the other group, and like Andrew was talking about, doing the infiltration gives them an excuse to make wireless communicators and all that stuff. And
It's only one way. It doesn't run on batteries, but it's only one way.
It's
and they're going to create RC cars,
cars.
like small microscopic, well, not microscopic, but
and drones. We're working on drones too.
It's always like this thing of like, yeah, I understand how they can make it, but I don't think they can make it that small or in that detail. We'll go with it. It's always like this little bit of suspension of disbelief. Doesn't require too much, which I like. But it does require a little bit. That was like the whole cell phone thing. I'm like, you're not making a cell phone. Don't stop it. Stop. You're not making a cell phone.
But no, it is fun. It's goofy. I like a lot of the grounded in reality kind of, like Andrew was saying, is a little bit of suspension of disbelief.
There's only one.
It's there.
There's only one aspect that you have to use a lot of suspension of disbelief.
The freaking petrification beam.
We'll figure that out eventually. But no, that everybody doesn't think that Kohaku is massively attractive. Everybody just is dead set that Kohaku is not attractive. I'm sorry, girl she's got it.
Freaking got.
She's got it. Why does everybody think? I mean, it's the whole aspect of the brute. Very childish humor, but still.
Yeah, I always thought she was pretty freaking hot, but that's aside from the point.
No, it's not. It's literally very point to the point. We're talking about just suspicion of disbelief.
I like the girl that they left behind though. I think she's really freaking cute.
Which one? There's like they left behind. I think like 20 females.
Yuzura.
No, she's taken. It's Taiju's girl.
Yeah,
you're gonna get the crap beat out of if you go after Taiju's girl. He will hit you with his new hoe that he has. He's was he a food ambassador or something? Food ambassador?
No.
Yeah, he's a food ambassador because he was the one that he was the one.
No,
that
he's on Team Strength though.
Well, yeah, that too. He was. I mean, you had like Chrome as like the gatherer. You had Jen as the manipulator. I like how each one of them. You have a very massive cast by now, and I hate the fact they're making more characters because, like, please stop adding to the cast. But most of the new stuff is a lot of generic characters or a lot of generic no-name people. But I liked how they sort of try to keep it a little bit controlled in the idea that each one of them is sort of an ambassador or a assigned to different roles. Like Rusui is the navigator, Taiju is strength, Chrome is gatherer, the reporter, the one that's kind of keeping the history of everything. All that kind of stuff I think is cool.
You know, I do kind of agree with you on the aspect of the cast being as large as it is. And the fact that they keep adding more characters, I can't disagree with you on that, but at the same time, it's like I think that they do really well at using only the characters that are necessary for the storyline.
They did a lot with the first season. I don't think they did too much this time, but they did have times where every now and then it's like we have to see everybody react to the new thing he built. And it's like, please stop. We made bread. Everybody taste the bread. Eat the bread. It's like Kuma bear. Everybody try the shortcake.
But yeah,
but it's like my Hero Academia. At some point, it felt samey. Like, okay, here's a new cast, but I don't know how they're different than the old cast. Here's the new class. Okay, they kind of are starting to look samey. This one, I think, still kind of does a pretty... They don't give them much attention at all. Like, none of these characters have, like, deep backstory. I mean, we got the reporter girl's backstory that's sort of been hinted over a long period of time. We sort of knew what was going on with her, but they finally kind of solidified it. We don't really get, like, deep backstories for all these characters, but at least they give them enough. So...
But yeah, going through the kind of... Most of this section has been kind of interesting in... the fact that we're getting kind of the bigger storyline. It looks like they're kind of trying to dig into that. At this point, we're getting to a point where it's like, I hope we get a real massive payoff for what they've kind of implied in this season. So
you know it's gonna be a tease.
It's gonna.
It's gonna be.
It's gonna be. I almost think it's gonna be a massive letdown, and I hope that most of what we have in front of us will be able to carry us through that. So it's not as big of a blow for the storyline as it feels like it's going to be. Not and to clarify, we're talking about one of the main reasons for the entire series, why it happened. And you know that if you're being honest with yourself, you know that they're going to have a hard time playing off whatever the answer is because they've already made it too big. So it'll be interesting to see as long as that doesn't hurt itself in the long run.
Well, I think that's the interesting thing because I think it's got itself in a position right now that it doesn't necessarily need to answer it. It's positioned itself in a way that even if that is answered, it's not the end of the story, because the goal, the end game, is not to find out what caused that.
Right.
It's to rebuild civilization. So this can keep going all the way up to the point until Senku is flying in space. But I think what this does so well, and I think because I don't have expectations for this particular story arc.
No,
I don't think he's going to get the answer of what caused it. He's probably going to find somebody has figured it out and replicated it. But I think what does so well with Dr. Stone in general is I never look to the end. Whenever I'm watching Dr. Stone, I'm never looking to the end, the finish line. I'm not looking for the answer of the finish line. It's always a show that's so segmented, and I oddly enough get caught up in just what are they building next. What's next?
That's why I said it's not. I don't think it's going to. It's one of those things of. It's just showing it and saying, "Hey, this is the answer to this question." No, I don't personally have that question in my mind. I didn't go into watching Dr. Stone going, "Oh, I hope that some point I hope at some point they explain this one thing."
Explain why the birds were turning into stone before the light appeared. Explain why the birds were turning into stone before the light appeared. I'm still waiting for that answer. Because remember, Taiju took the stone bird to the
true.
bed.
No, it's one of the when I'm saying that is. It's not so much that I went into it going, "Hey, I fully expect that this will be explained." It didn't come off as a story like that. I'm saying that they put this in front of us, saying, "Hey, this is here.
This is the carrot on a stick," and we're all going, "Who cares? He's making
Who cares?
a cell phone."
They're making a cell phone,
but don't forget,
it's still here.
I don't care. They're making a camera. A camera.
And that's my point, is now that they've suddenly randomly brought this stupid thing in, now you're forcing it.
They made Kohaku hot. She's got makeup now. But don't forget, we got the carrot over here. But Kohaku's got makeup on now.
And so now we've got it right dead in front of our face. And of course, we're going to sit here and go, okay, now I am curious. Why? Why are they there? Now, like I said, is it going to be to the extent that there's no way that they're going to pull that off? So at least all I can hope.
Why is it a flashbang?
Yeah, at least all I can hope is that it's not going to be as detrimental as it could be.
Yeah. Anyway, that's Dr. Stone New World Core 1, I guess. I guess that's going to be the name of it, Part 1. Oh my gosh. Do we have to do this next one?
Sure. Let's do it.
Oh my gosh. Did you even finish it?
I'm gonna take a wild guess. Andrew hates it. Chris is okay with it. I'm gonna say spoiler. Sorry.
I can't say that.
Okay. Surprise us, Andrew.
The Aristocrats.
Tell us how much you didn't hate it.
From the famous light novel series, obviously, it's always a light novel. The Aristocrats, otherworldly adventure serving gods who go too far. Or Tensei, Kizoku, no Isekai, Boken Roku, Jicho wo Shiranai Kamigami no Shito. Done by Magic Bus and EMT Square. Went for 12 whole episodes on Crunchyroll. Genre, action, fantasy, romance. What? Anyways.
Yeah, he's got like 5 girlfriends. I mean, come on, Andrew.
It's so romantic about it, isn't it? Yeah, I like that whole romantic arc where he saves the girls and they love him.
Instantaneously? It's like a little switch.
They're like, you guys got tired of this whole build up. Let's just give it to you. We don't need to build up to them loving him. Just they love him. I never did get I had a theory on that whole thing, and I never got that. So I just realized that, and I feel a little bit mad. I was totally thinking that the two girls from the very beginning were those two, but apparently that was anyways. Yeah. Anyway, this is a guy. These girls are running out of this supermarket or convenience store, and some dude with a knife is chasing after them. Apparently, they did something really bad to him.
They remind us of that every day.
Every episode. Thank you. Every episode, we have to see where he gets stabbed again. And by the way, if you forgot, I got stabbed and I got transferred to another world and I got a lot of power. But yeah, these two little girls in kimonos made this dude really mad, so he wanted to stab him, and he jumps in front of it and gets stabbed and then dies. And then he wakes up and he comes to realize that he has been transported into the body of a boy named Kine Silford. Find out later that he was reborn there, but they locked away his memories. But apparently he untapped his memories at this young age and realized who he was. And at some point when they get to a certain age in this world, you go to this ceremony, this coming of age ceremony at this church. And typically most people might, have one of the gods will bestow upon them a blessing. Well, of course, because he's a main character and he's overpowered, he talks to all of them, and they all bestow all their power to him. And not only typically the max most people would get with 6 level in a blessing, he gets 10 and everything. You kind of find out that's for a reason, because there's this big catastrophe that's going to come up in the future, and they're going to need him to fight up against it. So he's got to train and get stronger. And so Kine learns about the world and gets OP and saves girls, and the girls are princess of the kingdom, and so they want to love him. And he gets, I think he got 3 different statuses from the king at some point. I think at some point he was even going to give him a crown because Kine is so great. The rest is a blur, honestly.
And
so what do you think?
He contracted with Mao-sama too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. So your thoughts?
It's fine. It plays the same cards as a lot of your OP main characters. It likes to kind of dabble into just different ideas that this one thinks that it's original. It's trying it. Its big twist was kind of really weird. That I kind of went with, but when it comes down to it, it's not really doing anything that special. It's trying to just be what it is, and I think that it did just fine at that. It has a goofy reason for Kine to have lots of girls throw themselves all over him, and trying to. I think it has a real hard time finding its uniqueness, and that I think is its biggest frustration. It tried to do something with a kind of a background character. It's trying to throw kind of this mix between the new him being the new emperor and the past emperor, and trying to come up with something that will make it unique, and it's not really doing that well.
Yeah, I kind of see that. I chuckle because my main thought for this entire series is one of those ones that just it checks all the boxes. What does isekais do? Let's do it all. And it's just what exactly are you doing that's going to be unique? And it just doesn't really feel like it. And yeah, you technically are right. I had this feeling based on the OP that something was possibly going to happen that could be interesting. And shrug. The way they handled it was it was very shrug. Okay, yeah, we did it, whatever. It wasn't as great as I thought it was going to be. Back to being typical. And what typical is isekai, overpowered, loving, doting sister, has the adventures that come and train him at some point. He's super overpowered, so he overdoes them. You have going to become a part of the Adventurers Guild, saving the princesses, becoming the love interest of the princess, and basically one of the chancellors or something like that's daughter. I forget what it was. And then being Prime overpowered, Minister, blessed by all the kings themselves, all the gods themselves, and just nothing. It's okay, put the stone on the table and ask him what his balance is in magic. He's gonna touch it and it's gonna explode. Do all the things that you typically get from an overpowered main character, shrug, move on. And That's the sad thing, is I literally found nothing in the show that was unique except for this one little bit that didn't do much.
I got more amusement out of everybody constantly telling him he needed to chill out. That is probably the most, and that's...
It was funny that they rush out into the middle of the forest and they find this crater where this monster he killed, and they find this thing that obviously indicates that he was there, and they're like, what did you do? The king himself like, dude, stop. You're not going to destroy us, are you? Well, yeah, it was a chuckle here and there, but
that was
mostly whenever it's the Sugoi moments, I don't really care, but yeah, those reactions to the overpoweredness were all right.
That was about the most amusement I got out of this show. I mean, yeah, when I say everything was fine on the show, that it literally is just fine. It's not doing anything that sets it apart. And one of the biggest kind of tidbits to give you an example of why we point out the fact that it's more that makes it more frustrating is literally you get a training montage, a bunch of people go sugoi sugoi, training montage, everybody says sugoi sugoi, and then we go to the hyperbolic time chamber and then do a training montage, and then he comes back.
But nobody said sugoi sugoi there.
They were mad because he disappeared. No, see, and that's the thing. Training montage. That is a way for him to go from 0 to 60 in half a second, and he's more overpowered.
But see, you never really... That's the sad thing, is you never really feel like he's always been overpowered. So what do you... You never get a sense of, did he get stronger? I don't know.
He was already overpowered.
He was already overpowered. So what do we do that for?
And I don't disagree with that.
He explodes half the planet rather than just 49.3% of the planet? I don't know. Anyway, sorry.
No, that's pretty much it. Is the training montage is just a compounding of what we're saying. It's not, I don't have a necessary problem. I actually enjoy overpowered main characters. I'm completely fine with them. My biggest issue is that they're not putting some kind of an equal weight on it. The quote unquote bad guy of the series, which has
the stupid nobles that were being mean to him until they find out that he's a baron, and they go, right. No, and they shuffle away.
Yeah, I was talking about the bigger bad guy. He's not, it's not his part of the story per se. And so he doesn't really become a main antagonist. And so to just say, way off in the future,
long time
from now, it's going to be really, really bad for you.
It's going to get bad real soon.
It's going to get real bad. So there's not a weight.
It's like the Dragon Ball Z. They're coming. They're on the spaceship coming. You got to train Goku. That's literally this season.
And that's my thing, is there's not an equal weight to offset his power. And so you don't have that. Since you don't have that weight, all you just see is him going blah blah blah. I'm doing this, and everybody going, wow.
And the king goes, stop. The king goes, stop. What are you doing? What if another kingdom finds out you're here? Yeah, there you go. That's Aristocrat's Isekai. It didn't do anything offensive. Yeah, I guess it's just
goofy
samey
fun, Andrew. Just admit it. It's goofy fun.
Too samey. Borrows too much. It is literally trying to yet another isekai trying to be Mushoku without doing the things that made Mushoku great. Come on, Bear Punch. The second season of Come on, Bear. I thought I seen it. They released a new art for the finale, I think it was, and I'm like, oh, they got another season coming? No, it was just they wanted to make a new art. That sucks. Anyways, Crunchyroll, running for 12 episodes, done by EMT Squared, based on a light novel, adventure, comedy, fantasy, slice of life. For those who don't know, this is essentially about this girl that lives alone, and she does stock trades. I forgot about that at some point, and I reminded myself. She does stock trades, and she plays this online game. Well, at some point, I think she gets trapped in the game itself. I've still yet to get that answer. But she's stuck in the game, but she's been given like these really OP abilities, which is essentially a bear costume and bear gloves and bear everything. And with this outfit, she is super overpowered. And so she becomes an adventurer, and she travels around, eventually opens up her own little house, buys land, opens up shops, and all this kind of stuff. All of the kills that she makes, she brings back home to this girl named Fina, who does all the carving of the meat and everything, and sells everything for her and helps her out with that stuff. And she just makes sweets and protects and makes all the little cute girls smile because her cute bear outfit and her bear minions and everything bear. And then this season, I guess quite a few things happen. I think the bigger major arc was towards the later part with the city with the two nobles that were competing. Well, one noble was trying to destroy the other noble. They were supposed to be coexisting, but that didn't work out apparently. They adds quite a bit around this girl that wanted to do knitting. She was an orphan, all this kind of stuff, and helping this one girl, Shia, with her adventure group doing their first big trial and all that kind of stuff. So, LOL. Oh yeah, she also made mithril blades, which was really funny. I love whenever you have like this character that just gets so geeked out over like mithril. Dude, that's like the coolest material in video games ever. I want to make mithril blades. And then she makes them and everybody gets mad. The sister goes, sit. She's like, I'm already sitting. No, sit. And she gets off the chair and gets over and sits on her knees on the side. Like this overpowered bear costume fitted out girl, and she's getting yelled at by this little girl. It's really expensive. You can't just give that out. And the parents get mad. Sorry, spoilers. Your thoughts on Kuma Punch?
I like it. It's really nice to have some more stories from this story. More story
writer?
from this story. I was gonna go with writer, but yeah.
From this thing.
This thing. Definitely not story. I'm not gonna use the same word.
Hey. Anime.
Anime. I'm glad that the animators animated this anime.
Bears.
The bears.
Lots of bears. Kawaii cute girls bear punch. That was my review. Thank you. What another season? Might check out the light novel, but not enough. There's not enough cute girls on each page.
The letters don't get together and do a dance.
There was not enough. There was not enough pictures in the light novel. I didn't buy it. 0 out of 10. Want the anime again?
Would not continue.
It's like 4 pictures.
It just broke my brain. So anyway, I enjoyed it.
They actually hinted at the god again. That was out of nowhere. I'm like, oh yeah, this is the thing. Like out of nowhere, she's like, oh, there's this thing buried right here. I think the god or goddess wanted to plant this here for me. I'm like, oh wait, oh yeah. So she is isekai. Oh, she did mention later on this idea that they actually had her in a cute outfit.
I was gonna ask,
and she's like, I didn't take off the whole thing because this is literally the only thing keeping me alive. So I'm like, that is an isekai.
I was gonna ask you, and you can or cannot if you want it, if you think it's a spoiler. The guy at the end that she was fighting against, did they imply that he was a player as well?
I don't think so. No.
I kind of got that hint for a split second, and then it went back to just him being a bad guy. So
yeah, he's a bad guy. Just a bad dude.
So anyway, the whole this whole arc, it kind of split into about 3-4 little sections. The strawberry cake section that Andrew really loves.
Everybody tried.
We got the we got the mithril arc, and then we got the kind of teddy bear sewing the teddy bear thing, and then we got the last part, which was to me it was the part that I really liked. I really liked the setup of her getting into this new town, the setup of like Andrew had said, the 2 districts, and how they're one is competing and the other one's not competing, and the trying subversion and all that stuff. And then ultimately the reason why I really loved it was Kuma-san just going nuts, and it was really nice to see her get flat out serious.
Again,
for
bad
once.
Mama Bear.
Yeah,
Mad
she was
Mama Bear.
not. She was not happy, and I really, really liked that. So yeah,
I got to kick out the fact they did that whole like that dinner, and the things like we cannot get involved, or the prince was technically saying we cannot get involved because then it would show favoritism as the kingdoms, the rulership, and they had this whole thing where they literally cannot show that they are getting involved, yet the chef comes out and literally uses the power of the king against them. Like, you literally just used the power of the king themselves to show favoritism. What?
no, they waited until after they had made their complaints and started.
Yeah, but it's
bashing.
still the same thing. But yeah, there's no way they can complain at that point, I guess.
Yeah, they can't take it back afterwards,
Yeah.
and that was the whole point. But no, I really did. I loved the mithril arc. I really liked the teddy bear section. I really liked the getting into kind of a lot of the character building in that
Adventure
part.
Trial 1 was actually surprisingly good. And I think that was like the first one they did. Mainly because it was like on the aspect of her not wanting to get involved. Because she's supposed to be just watching them. And I think her stepping up would just discredit them as adventurers. So really, her keeping on standby and not getting involved was a good thing. But it's kind of nice in the idea that towards the later part, having that aspect of her pointing out what each one of them does and what's so special about each one of them.
But yeah, I absolutely loved this season. I thought it did a fantastic job. I love continuing the storyline and hope and can't wait to see more.
I am really happy that it turned out as good as it did, because I think me personally lately, I've been having a lot of I have this feeling of like this curse of second seasons where all these shows are getting second seasons and then they just turn out to be blah. Like the Grace of the Gods was like that. I just be careful what you wish for, because that second season was just very blah. This one worked out. I mean, I've always kind of compared this one to Bofuri in a lot of respects, because it's they're both shows is about cute girls that are the leads. They're super massive, overpowered with some sort of equipment, and in a lot of cases protecting Smiles. This one's more about protecting Smiles, and I think Bofuri is more focused on the group, the guild itself, and everybody getting massively overpowered. But this one just works out a lot more for me than Bofuri does, and I think this comes from just the charm of the characters. I really like Yuna, her character. She's snarky. She's kind when she every time she needs to be, and she's willing to throw back whenever she needs to throw back. She's willing to get mad when she needs to get mad. She's very relatable in the sense that she has a very expansive sense of emotions that she goes through on a regular basis. She doesn't get involved all the time, but when she does need to, she steps up. And they do a really good job of it. I love her getting embarrassed every time she goes in the new town. Everybody's looking at her. She has to comment on it every time. I'm used to it by now, and she's never used to it. It's just got a good little. I think the only weakness of the series is that I don't really care too much for the supporting cast. I mean, besides Fina, the rest of the characters are like, I think I remember who you are, but I never really feel too much of a connection with anybody else besides Yuna and Fina for the most part. It's just kind of watching Yuna as she protects Smiles, and that's always fun. So, it's kind of a very. I guess it technically was my sugar show of the season. I can't really think of any other shows that were on this. I mean, you could say Idolmaster U149, but for the most part, U149 is juggling cutesy and the difficulties each one of the girls are facing. So, yeah, I enjoyed it. Did enjoy 7 out of 10. Looking forward to more Kuma Bear Punch. Is it gonna be Punch?
Probably.
Or Super Punch?
No, it'll be punch, explanation.
Punch kick.
No.
She doesn't kick much. She usually punches. It'll be 2 explanation points. Yeah,
2 explanation points.
That's probably gonna be it.
That's the thing that they do now.
No, they'll do Kuma Bear Punch second season. Just like Devil's a Part-Timer, they did 2 explanation points and they did second season.
There you go.
They're gonna do that with this. Kuma Bear Punch second season coming soon. Anyways, that's all the shows that we're going to do for the day. Like I said, we still technically have 2 more parters coming. Equal amount of shows, so there's a lot of shows to go through. We're going to get through them all eventually, but hope you guys enjoyed this set of reviews for the spring 2023 anime season. As always, we definitely appreciate everybody, all you guys' support. We're going to be actually being able to do
ad reads finally on the podcast. So hopefully people don't find that jarring, but just understand that when we have ads in there, it's to help support what we're doing here. But still, even then, greatly appreciate everybody that supports us otherwise through Patreon, our tips links, super thanks, memberships of the YouTube channel itself. Every way that you guys support is kind of going into this poll to help make this a thing, and we're gradually getting there, and I really do appreciate it. It means a lot to me. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed, and as always, y'all take care.
Os.